So this video is gonna be about my first time going to visit my husband in prison. My husband is in North Carolina. He's at the Polk Correctional Institution prison, but he just found out that he's gonna be transferred next week to the prison that he's gonna be, I guess, finishing his sentence at. But yeah, so I just wanted to go ahead and tell you guys about my first experience going into a prison. Now, this isn't my first time with a loved one incarcerated. My father was in and out of prison, but I was really young, so my mom never took me to go visit him or anything like that. But this is my first time actually walking into a prison. When you go visit someone in prison, the dress code is very strict because you're around other inmates. So for a woman, it's really hard. You can't have anything too tight. You can't have anything too loose, too revealing. You can't show your shoulders like this top. I will not be able to wear it because it will be considered showing too much. I don't know if you guys want to see a get ready with me, but let me know in the comments below. And if you guys are interested in seeing that, I'll go ahead and record it. So yeah, let's get started. My first video was on my birthday, June 16th, and on June 18th was when I went to go visit my husband with our daughter. They had a Father's Day event, so it was a special event. It was probably like maybe 15 families that were there, which was nice because it wasn't crowded. It was just a really nice atmosphere. I live in Georgia, and where he's at in North Carolina, it's a 6-hour drive. My sister and my brother-in-law, they went with me, and while I was visiting my husband, they went sightseeing. So we left Friday, maybe around, I want to say 5, and we probably got to the hotel around almost midnight. The next morning, my visitation was from 1 to 3, but I had to be there at 12:45. The next day, I got ready. I got there around 12:30 maybe, and let me tell you guys, like, I have this fear of driving in the freeway, first off. Second off, driving in the freeway in a state that I'm not familiar with, like, no, I was so nervous. I was already nervous to see my husband. I was even more nervous to drive on a highway that I wasn't familiar with. But luckily there was no traffic. And when I got there was probably like very little cars. It wasn't many cars at all. When I got to the place and I walked up to the door, mind you, this is my first time ever visiting a prison, so I didn't know what to do. So I just walked up to the door to see like if there was someone that worked there that can tell me which way to go or the process and all that stuff. So when I got there, the guy opened the door, and he was just like, "Are you here for visitation, or are you here for the fair?" And I was like, visitation. So I guess they had a job fair there that morning. Since the job fair was still going on, the people that were there for the Father's Day event had to wait outside until 1 o'clock. There was probably like 4 people in line, so I stood in line with my daughter, and I've heard like stories, like horror stories about the line being ridiculously long, and then the process of going through taking forever. So I didn't want to go back to the car and sit there for another 15 minutes, and then the line starts backing up, and then I'm just standing out there like forever. So I was like, let me just stand here and just stand for 15 minutes. So I stood with my daughter, and there was other like mothers. They were there with their kids, nieces and nephews. So they finally opened the door, and they called us in like 2 at a time. So I guess the way this prison was there was an iron door. They'll call you, 2 people will go through, they will close the door, and then I guess you go through the little detector. And then after that, the back door was another iron door. So once you left that one and that door closed, then they were allowed to open the front door. Like both doors couldn't be open at the same time. I guess it was just a safety thing. So then I was the next group to go. And it was actually really quick. Like they didn't have me take off my shoes. They didn't search me, like pat me down. They just had me walk through this detector thing and then sign who I'm there to see. And then that was it. Like it was really quick. I don't know if it's usually like that or if it was just because it was a family event, so they didn't expect people to, you know, bring anything into a family event. Okay, so what I wore was, I wore like a black v-neck. It wasn't tight, it wasn't loose, it was just fitted. And then I wore some boyfriend jeans and some black chucks. Kept it very simple. I wore my ring, of course, and I wore these pearl earrings. And yeah, that's all. And then I wore a belt, but my belt was easy to take off and put on. And then my daughter went in, and then after that, they took us through the back iron door, and we crossed like a little pathway into another building. And that building, that's when like they took the whole group of ladies that were there to visit, and then a chaplain came and talked to us, greeted us, and then they told us that we were gonna go through a yard and go into another building, and that's where we will see our loved ones at. So luckily it wasn't too far of a walk. They opened the door, and when I was the first one in line, so when they opened the door, I walked in, and it was like it looked like a gym. It looked like a gym, and there was like tables and booths sectioned off. So come to find out, it was like activities for the kids to do with their father. So one booth was like, you can make a card for your dad. Another booth was like taking pictures with your dad and stuff like that. And then there was like tables. So there was like 3 rows, and I think it was like 4 tables in each row. So I walk in, and when I walk in, I see like all the inmates look at me. So like the back 2 rows, the inmates were facing me, and then the front 2 rows, the inmates were facing the other way. So I saw the back of the heads of the first 2 rows, and then the front face of the last 2 rows. So as soon as I walked in, I see heads turn and they look at me. So I'm looking like, okay, I'm scanning really quick, and I don't see my husband. So I'm expecting like the chaplain or the people that work there to come up to me, you know, ask me who I'm here to see, and then like walk me to the table to my husband. But no, they were just like, enjoy. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So then I'm walking, and I'm like, let me step to the side with my daughter so that the other, you know, women can come in. So I stepped to the side, and I'm like scanning, I'm looking around. And like I told you before, I'm a pretty shy person in the beginning. And I don't like eye contact, like intense eye contact. Like it makes me really nervous, especially when it's with the opposite sex. Just cause I just don't like it. I feel like you're looking deep into my soul. I just don't like it. So I'm scanning around really quick, and I'm looking for my husband. So I stepped to the side, and so I was like, okay, let me start with the first table and go table by table and see who I see. So I look at the first table, and I see a guy talking to another guy, but his head is kind of faced this way, and I'm standing this way. So I see like a little nice clean beard with like a little mustache, but like he's in like big clothes. So my husband's not small, nor is he big. Like he's nice. I mean, that's my husband. He looks nice. But in the clothes that they were wearing, I mean, my husband was wearing an extra large. So you can only imagine how big it looked on him. He looked like a little boy. So I leaned over and I look, and I see his face. Like I see him turn my way, and it's my husband. And I couldn't even tell you what I was feeling. I was happy. I was nervous. I felt like the first time I laid eyes on him, like it took my breath away. And I just wanted to cry. But of course, like I have to be strong for him, because I can't think about myself at the time. Like if it's hard for me, imagine how hard it can be for your loved one. So when I saw him, we hugged, we kissed. And I also heard like the guards are very strict with the touching and the kissing and the being affectionate. But at this event, at least I didn't see any guards. There was a lot of chaplains, and there was church group and family. So I was able to hug him, kiss him, hold his hand. My daughter was able to sit on his lap and touch him a lot more than I could, just because I didn't want to cross that line. But yeah, it was really nice. We made a card, we took pictures. They had like snacks and drinks for the families, and you know, I got to sit down and talk to him and just see him. And even though he's only been away for like a month and a half now, like he looks different. Like he grew, like he always had like a little, like a lineup, but never like a beard, a full beard, which looked really, really good on him. And he just looked really, really good. But yeah, it was really, really nice, and we got to spend 2 hours with him. But when it was time to go, they like took the mic and was like, hey, you have 5 minutes to say goodbye to your loved ones. Thank you for coming and all this stuff. They were really, really nice. They even like paused and like had us all say a prayer, because like I said, there was a church group there. So they said a loud prayer for all of us. It was really nice. So we said our goodbyes, and then they had us, the inmates stayed at the table, and then we had to stand up and line up at the door, and then we walked out. And when we walked out, I felt like broken. I felt incomplete again. And that was, those 2 hours was probably, it was the first time I've ever felt complete since he left. Like I felt like I was living. And as soon as we walked out, it was just like my whole world came crashing down. And my daughter felt the same way. I don't think she understands like prison like that. She thinks prison is, oh, he'll be gone for a little bit, but he'll come back. Just like she doesn't know how long years are. She thinks a year can be like 2 weeks from now. Like she doesn't understand the concept yet. So she's a lot stronger than I am. Even though when we were lining up to leave, her eyes started getting watery. But you know, I told her like, oh no, baby, it's okay, it's okay. As a mother would to their child, you comfort them. And I was like, you know, be strong for daddy. She understands that, to be strong for him. So she was a little soldier, and she, you know, sucked it up. And then when we walked out, I said, you know, now it's okay to let it out. And I always explain to her, like, it's okay to express how you feel, especially her being a little girl. It's okay. But she didn't cry. She sucked it up. But me, on the other hand, I didn't think I was going to cry, because I was strong. At the door, I wanted to cry. When I saw her eyes water, of course, I wanted to break down and cry and leaving my husband. But I stayed strong for him. So yeah, as soon as I walked out, like, I held it strong. Like, I held strong, and I didn't want to, I'm not the type of person, I don't like showing weakness. I cry, like, I show my emotions really when I'm alone. I've never been the type who cries in front of other people, unless like it's my family or something like that. So I held it in until I got in the car, and when I got in the car, like, they just ran down my cheeks, like tears, loads of tears. I just felt like warmth all in my face. Like, I had my makeup done nice, and at that point I did not care. I had my makeup nice for my man. I, you know, did what I had to do. Now I'm leaving, and I do not care what I look like at all. So I was just crying. And I remember I sat there. I sat in the car, and my daughter rubbed my back and said, it's okay, mommy. And I just cried, and I was like, let me let it all out before I start driving, because the last thing I want to do is drive crying hysterically in a state that I'm not familiar with. So I was like, you know, let me let it all out now so I can feel better. So I did that, and while I'm crying, you know, everybody's leaving the parking lot, and I remember I saw the church group walk out. And when they walked out, they stood in front of the prison, and they gathered like in a circle with their like arms around each other. And I'm guessing they said a prayer for everyone who was in prison, which was really touching. And I prayed myself in the car. I prayed for my husband. I prayed for all of the prisoners that were in there. And I especially, my husband's situation, I pray for the ones who didn't have a fair trial, whose story wasn't heard. Those are the ones that I hurt for the most. First timers, people who are in the wrong place at the wrong time, you know, people who are just genuinely have good hearts and were just screwed over, basically. But of course I prayed for everyone else. On our way back though, because we came back the same day, halfway to Georgia, my daughter started crying. I remember she kept looking at the picture, and she was fine at first, you know, she was playing, she was singing to the music, and then she just started getting really sad and looking at the picture, and she just broke down. I just let her cry, and she cried herself to sleep, poor thing. But yeah, I was really happy to see my husband. It was really worth it. It was hard leaving him, like so hard. And from talking to other women who have a loved one in prison, they say it doesn't get easier. It will always be hard to leave them, but it's not going to stop me from going to see my husband. I look forward to when I can see my husband again, and the reason why I wait is because first, I took a vow. Second, that's my husband, and he's my soulmate. And when you have a soulmate, you really can't imagine living your life without them. Like, I'd rather wait for him than live life without him. But yeah, it was a great visit. But yeah, so that's my first time going to see my husband in prison. And I hope this kind of gives you an idea of the process I went through, or how it was for me. Now, I will let you know how a regular visit goes, because this was an event. I will let you know how a regular visit goes when I go see him again. But yeah, guys, let me know if you want to hear any want me to record any other videos. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and leave any comments down below, and give it a thumbs up. Thank you, guys. See you later. Mwah.